grab your seats. We'll get started here pretty quickly. We do have two of our commissioners joining us via phone this morning remotely. So with that, I'm going to call to order the regular meeting of the Board of County Commissioners for September 14th. And I'll ask Ms. Tiffany East, Nevada Wildlife Commissioner, to lead us in the pledge. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Ms. East. It's always nice to see you. And I also want to point out we have some other elected officials in the building with us. Our chair from Story County, Mr. Jay Carmona. Nice to see you back there. And Sheriff, as well as to see you as well. So thank you guys for joining us this morning. All right. With that, Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call?
Chair.
Here.
Von Hartung, Vice Chair via Zoom.
Here.
Alexis Hill.
Here.
Kitty Jung on the phone.
Present.
Jeannie Herman.
Here.
County Manager Eric Brown.
Here.
Assistant District Attorney Nate Edwards.
Here.
And I'm Jan Galasini, your County Clerk. Sir, you have a quorum.
All right. Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. All right. We are on to item 3. That takes us right into our first presentation in the morning. Mr. Manager.
Item 3 is a presentation by Jamie Rodriguez, Washoe County Government Affairs Liaison, and Alfredo Alonso, Principal at Lewis and Roca, on the 81st Legislative Session Report for 2021, including but not limited to AB 1, AB 3, AB 33, AB 110, AB 126, AB 196, AB 274, AB 315, AB 366, AB 397, AB 422, AB 424, SB 37, SB 108, SB 295, SB 297, SB 327, and SB 397. SCR 11, and the China Spring budget. And we have in chambers today Mr. Alonso and Ms. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Alonso, Ms. Rodriguez, it's nice to see you. Thank you for coming this morning and providing us with our 81st legislative session update. I know you had a lot of time and a lot of work to do down at the session this year, so we'll get right into it and let you guys give us your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Alfredo Alonso for the record with Lewis and Roca. Thank you, Mr. Manager and members of the commission. I think probably the most efficient way to do this is for me to do a quick overview on where we started, where we ended up, and where we're going, and then Jamie can go through her PowerPoint, which goes into more specifics, and then obviously if you have questions, we'd be glad to answer them. This session was probably the strangest we've encountered. Obviously, they had no idea how to handle the COVID situation. It's a public body, and I think everyone was trying to get by, keep people safe, and still be able to operate properly. And I think it was a lot of trial and error. It was mostly virtual for the first nearly 3 months. And so we did most of our hearings online and testified online, whether that be through Zoom or through the telephone. And then obviously we did communications as well as we could through other means, whether that be simply getting on the phone with folks and having discussions on issues that were important to the county. We started out obviously in a hole. I mean, the big concern was that, you know, whenever the state has a significant budget shortfall, the counties end up getting hurt. And there's just no way around it. And whether that be, you know, issues and dollars being taken away or services being pushed down to the county and having the locals pay for more. It's a myriad of things that historically have happened in such situations. Thankfully, the feds we're able to get some dollars infused into the states, and we've had basically 2 tranches of that. And the budgets were cut, but they were, in many cases, obviously with the expectation of fulfilling some of those budget shortfalls later, and that's what they plan to do. So there's, the latest instructions are in. There's going to be a special session sometime in probably mid-November on reapportionment. And the only question now is what the governor wants to do with respect to the allocation of those dollars. IFC does not have, and likely doesn't have, all the authority they need to allocate those dollars. So what will likely happen is at some point, there'll be a special session of some sort, whether it's before or after the reapportionment special session, and then those dollars will be allocated. And as many of you know, there is a listening tour going on right now, led by the treasurer. The committee, the CARE committee, is going to be put back together as it was last year. So there'll be some discussion. Obviously, local governments and others will be able to have those conversations to see where that money will go. And that's essentially what we are. I think we dodged the bullet. We had a lot of very difficult bills to deal with. But I think as far as the fiscal side of it, it could have been significantly worse. And I guess that's good news in the middle of a pandemic.
Thank you, Mr. Alonso.
Good morning, Commissioners. So for starters, just a highlight of our legislative team here at Washoe County in terms of the process and individuals included in both making decisions for the county as well as representation. So on the left-hand column, you will see our executive team that helps us determine what bills are brought forward to the commission and for direction. On the right-hand side, you'll see the lobbyists that represent Washoe County actually in the legislative building. I always like to note that there's also a multitude of staff at the back end here that are helping us to review and provide feedback on bills. So this really is a massive group effort that many people that it would take multiple pages to include all of them, but that really help us represent the county best as possible during the legislative session. So quick overview, there were 1,035 bills introduced this session. It was about 250 bills less than normal. So they did try to cut that down based on some of the restrictions to the building from the pandemic. There were a total of 600 bills that were monitored by Washoe County of that, and we had a total of 173 fiscal note requests. As I believe you all are aware, Washoe County does have a position that every fiscal note request that we receive, we do respond to. So we did respond to all 173 fiscal note requests to the Legislative Council Bureau. I did want to highlight very quickly some of the bills with fiscal impact. As Alfredo mentioned, there was definitely some concerns going into session. These are the bills that do have some what we consider pretty significant fiscal impacts. They are a little complicated because some of them have offsets. So if in your legislative report, it kind of gives out that detail of what the total anticipated cost of the bill is, but also what some of those offsets are. So I didn't want to go into those details. I'm happy to answer questions about them if you would like, but that would take up a pretty significant amount of time, and I wanted to make sure we had time for you guys to ask questions. So real quick, bills of highlights. So these are bills that we brought to you as the board during the legislative session that did pass. So going through these fairly quickly, AB1, so each session, new legislators are required to receive a new legislator pre-session training. Now included in that training will be education on local government. So through Nevada NACO and Nevada League of Cities, there will be a program put together to train new legislators on what local governments do, how we're set up, what our statutory requirements are, and the differences between the different types of local government. AB3, so this is a bill that actually was discussed pre-pandemic and then during the pandemic kind of brought to light some of the issues that we would have really liked to address. So prior to AB3, a recorder's office could accept a digital map for recording, but none of the approval agencies had the ability to approve or review digital maps. So what AB3 does is allow for maps to be received and recorded by the county recorder's office, but closing that nexus of allowing groups like CSD and those to be able to review and actually approve the maps digitally to then be sent to the recorder once all of those sign-offs are achieved. AB 33, this was a bill that helps us streamline paternity process for children in CPS. So this is for children where we do not know one of the parents of the child. And so this allows us to use some of the provisions that are used during child support that reduces the amount of notifications and postings that we have to do to determine who the paternal parents of the child are, to determine if there's a paternal caretaker that we can send the child to, or if they should be going into the adoption process. AB 110, so this is a bill that made some changes to what qualifies as a registered lobbyist for the session. It was really to help clean up and fill the gap for the remote session. Previously, NRS required that lobbying only triggered when you were on the legislative complex, so a phone call, any of those things did not qualify a person to have to register as a lobbyist. That is no longer the case. So important to this is that before next session, we'll be having some new rules for you all to approve for how the county operates and determines the lobbying of the county representatives to the session. AB 196, so you may remember from, I think it was 2 sessions ago now, there was a bill that required government buildings to have lactation rooms available to staff. So this bill actually expands that for courthouse and courthouse complexes for there to be lactation rooms available to members of the public. So this was to help if you have attorneys or members of a jury that would need access to those rooms, witnesses, so on and so forth. So this is a requirement for them. Our district court, our Reno Justice Court, and our Sparks Justice Court already have spaces available to accommodate this. So working with Wadsworth and Incline Village for them to be able to come into compliance. AB 315, so upon retirement for any first responder, within 3 months, they are to get no more than 2 hours of mental health professional services, with the idea of making sure that they are available, that they are aware, of resources for mental health, post-traumatic stress, some of those issues, so that we can determine if they have some of those concerns or ideations that we can help them into retirement. AB 366, similarly, but is actually part of a behavioral wellness visit for all peace officers while they are employed by the county, though. So this will happen every year. For most peace officers, they have an annual physical. It would kind of correlate with that, but we do have district attorneys who are peace officers that don't get annual physicals, so theirs will be on a different schedule, but they too will be required to get a behavioral wellness visit every year. AB 397, so this does make some updates to the clerk technology fees and how it can be used, but far more importantly to Washoe County, it removed the requirement that for us to reduce our clerk's office hours, previously we would have had to, at no cost to the chapels, allow them the ability to issue marriage licenses. So that would have been a cost bared by the county to give them that technology and that access. And that was specific only to Washoe County. That did not apply to any other county. So this bill actually eliminated that provision of NRS, and so now we are the same as every other county in the state, that we have set hours, but we are able to reduce them if we're able to show a cost savings. AB 422, this is a shift in our voter registration system. So currently we are a bottom-up, meaning that our registrar takes the voter registration information and then submits it to the Secretary of State to be able to do a check and ensure that that individual is not registered at any other county in Nevada. This will go backwards, so that information will actually now go directly to the Secretary of State. The goal is to hopefully help with same-day voter registration so that people don't necessarily have to do all those provisional ballots. We're able to show that they're not registered somewhere else and register them and allow them to vote. AB 424, this is a justice bill. It requires a pretrial release hearing within 48 hours of request. So that one actually is on your list of bills with fiscal impact. It is going to require our courts to be open 7 days a week, and there will be a cost to personnel of having additional court staff, but also district attorneys, public defenders, sheriffs, and what have you, to be able to accommodate that 48-hour time period. SB 37. So currently, the county has the ability to request assistance from the Attorney General's office on certain legal cases. However, those have to be brought before the BCC by the district attorney for BCC support. They have found that there's problems with that because it could be at an investigation stage, and now they're having to lay out all of their information and all the evidence that they think a crime may have been committed that they would like the Attorney General's office to investigate. So what this does is allow the district attorney to submit a request to the Attorney General's office. If the Attorney General's office accepts that case, then it is at no cost to the county. If the Attorney General's office, upon review of that case, feels like they're going to want to seek some reimbursement from the county, then at that point it would have to come back to the BCC for fiscal approval. SB 295. So currently, if you receive permanent total disability from a government entity, you are not eligible to seek other employment. And if you do, then that goes against the permanent total disability that you receive from that county, whether that was a lump sum payment or to your periodical payouts. This changes that, and so now they are able to seek compensation or other employment without any impact to their permanent total disability compensation. SB 297, this is the Urban Farms Bill. So this allows for a partial abatement of ad valorem property taxes for urban farms or community gardens. It does require approval from the county to offset that ad valorem tax. SCR 11, this was the result of a bill that originally was intended at creating innovation zones. What this will do now is there is an interim study group that has already commenced. They will be reviewing innovation zones, and then they will be making a recommendation to the governor's office as to whether or not they believe that innovation zones should exist in the state of Nevada and what those innovation zones should look like. The report is due to the governor's office by December 31st of this year, and then if the recommendation is that there is some sort of innovation zone, it can either be brought up at the next regular session, which would be 2023, or at a special session prior to that. The last thing that I wanted to highlight, because I know that we discussed it quite a bit during this session, is the China Spring budget. So you may remember we discussed during the legislative session, there was a cut to the China Spring Youth Camp budget. And this is to put the state allocation for China Spring, which serves 16 counties in Nevada, all but Clark County, in line with the allocation that goes to the Clark County Youth Camp. It was essentially a 71% cut to the camp, so it was a significant cut to the camp, but there were some concerns that with the counties just accepting and filling in that gap of all those allocations. So part of the agreement with the state was that total 71% decrease occurs over 3 years. There was no change to the county allocation. So our allocation to the China Spring Camp did not increase as a result of that state budget decrease, with the idea that we'll be able to bring hopefully something back before the next legislative session in an agreement of how we'll be able to help the China Spring Youth Camp. Last is we do have the legislative report. You all have received copies. It is live on our website if anybody in the public would like to review it. We do also have copies up in the manager's office if anybody would like a hard copy. But set out in the same manner that we usually do, highlighted bills, which are the bills I just ran through, the fiscal impacts, bills that require commission action, bills that the commission may take action on, and then assembly bills, Senate bills, bills that were vetoed. We do have a bills of hot topics. Those were the topics that you guys gave us going into the legislative session, and then just a highlight of the Washoe County legislative team. Sorry, that was a lot. So with that, I'm happy for Alfredo or myself to answer any questions from the commission.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Alonso, I appreciate it. Are there any questions from the commissioners? Commissioner Hill.
Not exactly a question. I just want to say thank you so much. This was my first session as a commissioner, and I really enjoyed it. And now I cannot wait for the next session, and I can't wait for us to start having our interim meetings as internal teams to discuss how we can better arm ourselves to be offensive rather than defensive. What kind of bills would work in our favor on the state level? And just speaking to even the sheriff's office or animal control, I know that there's a lot of opportunities for us to change some laws to ease our business and to also make some fairness as far as spending allocations. So I can't wait to begin those discussions again. And I'm assuming, are they happening next year? Are we getting into those soon?
Yeah, so those, thank you for the question. So those do usually start the next fiscal year. In part, those are getting pushed out a little bit because we do still have the special session coming up. And so while we're expecting those to be redistricting and potentially some of the ARPA funding, there's always the potential that there's some policy in there. And so until that special session is called, we don't really know. So once the special session has occurred, then we'll start doing the outreach, because we usually try to get to departments in that first quarter of that next year.
Great.
To get them to submit any of their proposals, ideas, things that we need to start discussing so that we can hit the ground running as soon as possible.
Okay, well, thank you, and thank you again for all your help, and looking forward to it.
All right. Commissioners, anybody else? Commissioner Jung, do you have anything this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do. I would like to echo what Commissioner Hill said, and I am nervous that we don't have a central database or someplace that commissioners can check on many times that have come up in our policy board conversations about new BDRs we should be looking for us to present. I no longer, and we probably need to take a vote on this, Mr. Chair, but it felt like I had agreement, but we never did take a vote. I, like Commissioner Hill, the newest commissioner here, I would like to really change that philosophy and rather have us use our BDRs and figure out what BDRs are the most important. But I need a list that is being generated by staff when we have these policy discussions and we run into a dead end and figure out that, nope, this is not our authority, but it should be, or this is our authority and this is absolutely not our responsibility. I want those lists to be generated going forward, and I hope somebody is keeping a list. I try to keep my own as well, but I am not interested in the old philosophy, which is, we don't want to bother the governor and the legislature. We're just trying to lay back here and not, I'm done with that position. I think we need to get in there. We need to be really working on, instead of trying to hide in plain sight, really working on positive solutions for what this body oversees and keeps us focused on where our, as I like to say, what lane we should be in and what lanes should be changed. I have a great example for you, which I've asked for 14 years, which is the annexation issue, which is completely correct. Never mind what the former city manager said in the newspaper that I was wrong. This is an arms race. And those taxes matter when we're in a taxing district that only depends on property tax to build fire stations and staff them up. I've yet to see any bill and that move anywhere forward, and we have the most to lose, and we are very unique in that way because of the way it is set up with annexation. We are always playing catch up, and now I would agree that lately we've been much more cooperative, but cooperation is based on relationships. I won't be here in a year and a half. I don't want cooperation to rely on the better angels of all of us. I want it to be what is fair and square, and we are protected. So I need to see a lot more proactive work here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. Do appreciate that. Commissioner Herman or Commissioner Hartung, I don't see either of you signed in for this. I do want to say this is, every session becomes a little bit more unique and a little bit different. And I'm excited that AB 1 is now on the books. I think AB 1 will help provide a lot of information to the legislators that do not have the institutional knowledge or may not have come from local government and understand the challenges that are impacted or the issue and the situations that are impacted by their decisions at the local level, because they're in session for 120 days. It's very quick, it's very rapid. Then they have interim meetings, but I don't know if they truly understand the full breadth of what happens at the local level and how those policy decisions. And I have a tendency to agree with Commissioner Jung and Commissioner Hill in the sense that we have had not so much a lackadaisical, but kind of a laissez-faire approach in the sense that let's not ask if there's nothing to be changed, but quite often do we see in our policy discussions that there are impacts by NRS, that NRS prevents us from doing certain things that limits our ability to promote change, or and so what I would say going forward to more of the manager is that as we have these policy discussions and we find, whether it's through public input, whether it's through policy discussions here at the level, that we have a legislative side of this, being that Ms. Rodriguez is on staff and with us 7 days a week, that we have those discussions a little bit more frequent in regards to, is it something that we can change? Is it something we can bring back to the legislative team? Is it something that is potential for new change? And that's really, having that voice is going to be more impactful in future sessions, and needs to be, especially as this county continues to grow. So I think that is something that we need to talk about. And as the redistricting issue, for a number of individuals, there's discussions about representation and how that's going to change. What Northern Nevada's representation is going to look like in both houses, what the ability for Clark County. And so I think that, to Commissioner Jung's point as well, is that relationships are really the one thing that keeps us alive down there. However, we need to be more self-reliant on how we can be effective and strategic about moving things forward. So I do appreciate both of your work. The whole team did a phenomenal job. It is a very fast-paced 120 days, and this, like as I said in the onset, that was very awkward in the sense of trying to figure out where we were coming from and how we were going to get the session done, and if it was going to be on time, and how people could attend. And so I think that's a discussion that will be ongoing. So I want to thank you for all of your work and dedication to this. It's been challenging, but it's been nice to work alongside of quite educated and very strong and professional individuals down there at the session, because that makes a difference. So thank you very much to the both of you. We really do appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to say one more thing that I forgot when I went off on my tangent, and that is I wanted to thank Mr. Alonso for always representing us and doing it at a bargain basement price. I think Mr. Alonso is probably one of my favorite human beings in all the world, and I know that he has Washoe County's best interest. And we dodge a lot of bullets that we never even hear about that happens down there. So I always say the county is so lucky that we have the best lobbyist in all of the state, who happens to live here and was born and raised here by his lovely parents. And we're lucky that his is a labor of love, because we could never afford him on the real market. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. All right, seeing nothing further, we'll close this item, and thank you both for coming today. We really do appreciate it. Thank you. All right, Mr. Manager, that takes us to item 4, sir.
Item 4 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. Commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
All right, and Madam Clerk, will you please call public comment?
Okay, we have quite a few speakers, so I will call a couple at a time if you'll queue up if you're the next speaker. First up, we have Emily Montan, and she does have a document to be distributed.
All right. Ms. Montana, it's nice to see you.
Can we have the overhead, please?
Can we have the overhead, please?
Good morning. While we're waiting for, there it is. Excellent. Let's see if I can get it in. Oh, the resolution's terrible. Good morning. My name is Emily Montan. I'm a resident of Reno, Nevada. I'm also a member of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northern Nevada. And the work that what I'm talking about is an affiliation, with Faith in Action Nevada. And I'm here to talk to you about these priorities. The clerk was kind enough to give you the handout because this is unreadable. I just hope the general public, let's see if this works better.
Much
Oh, no, it's still
Much,
unreadable.
well, it'll be.
Little bit better, but
Okay.
anyway, so we had a meeting to talk about the American Rescue Plan funds that are going to be coming to our state, or county, and city. And we decided that we want to make priorities on what's important to help our city and our county, and our state, of course. And I've been reading a history book by a renowned professor of history who's now retired from UNR, and I've learned a lot about the history of Nevada. I came originally from New Jersey, so I'm doing catch-up. So anyway, I just wanted to read some of these quotes to you because I think they're really relevant to what's going on in Nevada today. Okay. During the early 20th century, Nevada became one of the leaders among states in giving help to the needy in 1915. But we were ahead, but a significant change occurred after the New Deal programs began in the 1930s, when our federal government assumed some of these responsibilities. So anyway, thus by 1950, we had gained a reputation for being stingy toward its welfare clients. In 1955, one widely read essayist, Albert Deutsch, wrote a scathing article in the popular magazine Collier, some of you may know it. It's called The Sorry State of Nevada. Okay. And he has a quote here. I'm going to skip the first line because he used a bad word. But too rich to accept normal taxes, too poor to maintain its institutions and agencies on a decent 20th century level, coddling known racketeers and making them respectable by legalizing their operations, while turning a cold, poor master's eye to its poor, its sick, its socially misshapen. This is our history that we have to change. And in it, he goes on to say about mental health, and the report that came from the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill and Public Citizens Health Research Group found that Reno,
Thank you, Ms. Montan.
I'm so sorry. So anyway, our history is dismal, starting in the 1950s.
Thank you.
And we need to change it, and we believe that these priorities are very important.
Next up, we
Thank you.
have Martha Washington, followed by Mike Brierly.
All right. Welcome, Ms. Washington.
For the record, I am identifying as Martha Washington today. Isn't this mask just as ridiculous as this hat?
Ma'am, actually, you're going to have to
It
identify.
is said that I am
Ma'am,
quoted
you're
for
going to have to
saying,
identify your real name.
I am determined to be cheerful and
Ma'am.
happy in whatever situation I may find myself.
Ma'am, you're going to have to identify your real name, not Mrs. Washington, your real name. That is,
I'm identifying as Martha Washington today. My real name is Janet Butcher.
Thank you.
I am identifying as Martha Washington. Thank you for interrupting me.
Thank you.
I am quoted as saying, I am determined to be cheerful and happy in whatever situation I may find myself. And I hope those who identify themselves as Republicans and are really Democrats will really step forward. I can certainly tell you that I cannot be happy in this current tyrannical situation. If George weren't already dead, he would die of a broken heart to see that what he and others so fiercely fought for being destroyed. You are now facing the same oppression that your forefathers did when they fought against it and broke from the tyrannical hold of King George III by allowing there to be oppression against those who choose to decide on their own if they wish to engage in an experimental injection. Thomas Paine said, "The greatest tyrannies are always perpetrated in the name of the noblest causes." I implore you to put an end to these tyrannical mandates. There is no logic or common sense being used in the injection mandates. Some are exempt based upon what entity they work for, while others are being fired from their positions because they want freedom to choose their own medical care. George's good friend Benjamin Franklin said, "When the people find they can vote themselves money, that will herald the end of the republic." I have come to find out that there is a lot of this voting for money happening these days. Who is benefiting monetarily from these injections? Benjamin also said the man who trades freedom for security does not deserve nor will he receive either. This is happening right before your eyes, and you promote it and do nothing in the name of freedom. Please note that Friday, September 17th is deemed Constitution Day. I know some of you know what the Constitution is, others don't follow it. Thank you for listening, Mr. Lucy. To commemorate the formation and signing of the U.S. Constitution by 39 brave and honest, and I underscore brave and honest men on September 17th, 1787. As representatives of the community, I trust you have made good plans to honor and celebrate our great Constitution, and you will be sharing those plans with us today. I will close with another of my reported quotes. I wish you would exert yourself so as to keep all your matters in order yourself without depending on others.
Thank you, Ms. Butcher.
Martha Washington.
Mike Brierly, followed by Lorraine Doherty.
Welcome, Mr. Brierly.
Good morning. Wish you all well. We're here as a common cause to make Washoe County, City of Sparks, and Reno the best place to live. I do have an issue with this resolution that's on the agenda today regarding the transfer to First Tee. I think First Tee is great. The possibility down the road, if some reason First Tee discontinued their operation of the Well Creek Golf Course, there is a need to make sure it stays not only in the county, but maybe another use such as open space. So I would suggest that in that resolution, you add a clause to have a deed restriction that would allow for this. We can see that there is a zoning with Sparks that's for public facilities. So now that does add some emphasis. I did speak with Mayor Lawson. He said there should be provisions in that, so hopefully that is accomplished. So we need a deed restriction for open space in that deed, just in case that First Tee did not continue. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next up, we have Lorraine Doherty, followed by James Bentham.
Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning.
How are you?
My name is Lorraine Doherty. I'm a resident of Washoe County. This is an impressive agenda that you have, but I have to tell you, it's really on the lower rung of my priority list. Unless and until this commission makes priority the constitutional rights of the residents of Washoe County. And I've come here several times to address the commission, and although I'm tired, I'm not done doing that, but I am done with having to ask the commission to do its job in representing the expressed desires, needs, and rights of Washoe County residents. I'm tired of being ignored, and I'm done. I'm done with the mandates, the decrees, the declarations that violate my constitutional rights. I'm done with this fraudulent health emergency because we are not in an emergency. By definition, an emergency is a sudden, urgent, and temporary event. We have been with this virus for coming to 18 months. And as it takes its natural course, we will probably be with it indefinitely. So I come to tell you that I will not comply with your mandates or your declarations or your unconstitutional requirements. And I have to say also that I know some of you are up for re-election in 2022, and though you may have received my vote in the past, you will not receive it this year, and I will do everything in my power to convince as many people as I can to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
James Bentham, followed by Lori Jensen.
Welcome, Mr. Bentham.
Good morning. James M. Bentham for the record. This afternoon, I'll be going to a school board meeting, and they have put public comments at the end of their meeting. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak at the beginning of this meeting. Also, the school district is engaging in social emotional education, and they're supposed to be teaching critical thinking. Today, I'm identifying as Jewish. I think that it's important that we study history so they're not repeating it, especially demonizing groups. Nuremberg laws, 2,000 anti-Jewish laws took away civil rights of Jews. No citizen to no marriages with Germans, closed businesses, and other restrictions. Today, I'm concerned about COVID and the results in our nation. In an article, articles.mercola.com cites FDA officials resign. Each dose of Moderna COVID-19 vaccine deposits 40 trillion mRNA molecules into your body, but only 25% stay at the injection site. What happens to the other 75%? Story at a glance. Some of the same drug companies now responsible for developing and manufacturing fast-track COVID vaccines were also responsible for creating the opioid crisis in the United States, which has killed as many Americans as have died from COVID-19. Most have also been convicted of other unethical and criminal activities over the years, any of which puts their ethical fitness into question. In 2019, an Oklahoma court found Johnson & Johnson partially liable for the human and financial costs of the opioid epidemic in the U.S. and ordered the company to pay over $500 million. Two other COVID-19 vaccine makers, Pfizer and AstraZeneca, are habitual offenders, having repeatedly engaged in illegal, corrupt marketing practices, bribery, and science suppression. Pfizer's vaccine plant, where COVID-19 vaccine vials are to be filled, has a long history of quality control problems. These issues bring up the reliability of these companies and the evil influence today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Lori
Bentham.
Jensen, followed by Gerald Antonoro.
Welcome, Ms. Jensen.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Lori Jensen. I'm here with our Story County Sheriff, Gerald Antonoro, and our Story County Commissioner, Jay Carmona. We are here representing the community of Lockwood and the residents there who have signed and presented to you a petition. Many people do not know anything about Lockwood. We're a cozy, quiet little secluded community east of Sparks. We're comprised of about 3,000 residents over approximately 2 square miles. As you head east on I-80, the last Sparks exit is Vista. Lockwood is the next exit. Between these 2 points is what has become the homeless encampment that we have come here today to discuss. While we have immense compassion for those that find themselves in this predicament, we also have legitimate concerns for the rest of the population that this touches. The residents in this area frequently use campfires for light, warmth, and possibly cooking. There are no dedicated, maintained roads leading in and out of the encampment, and the vehicles being used there do not appear to be in top mechanical condition. If a fire were to break out, it would spread very quickly. Similarly, Lockwood residents have 2 exits for 3,000 people to use in the event of a wildfire. You can see that a fire in this area would have devastating results all around. Lockwood residents have noticed the fires and contacted the authorities, who have instructed them to call 911. Having sheriff and fire personnel respond to every call like that is a considerable expense. Then there's the Truckee River, which is the primary source of household water for northern Nevada. The individuals living in this area do not have dedicated bathroom facilities or official systems to dispose of their household waste. Inevitably, much of this makes its way into our beautiful Truckee River, the Lockwood Trailhead Park, and ultimately Pyramid Lake. In addition to endangering the citizens who drink this water, the wild animals, fish, and plants in the ecosystem are also affected. This will have far-reaching consequences long after the living arrangements issues are remedied. Also, these folks are residing dangerously near the railroad tracks. It is not trivial to be concerned that someone living in this vicinity could be injured or killed on those tracks. This would be a life-changing tragedy for all involved. Our river and lakes are a source of pride and giver of life for all who call this area home. Tourists are drawn here for fishing, boating, and rafting activities provided by these waterways. For this area to continue to thrive, we need to keep our waterways healthy and wholesome. We also want our citizenry to be kept healthy and wholesome. We are here to encourage this commission to find a way to make this a reality. We suggest providing designated land away from the river with access to bathroom facilities, waste collection, and emergency services. This would provide a safe, stable option for unhoused individuals when an emergency shelter is not an option.
Thank you, Ms. Jensen.
Thank you.
For the record, I do have the petition that was submitted, and Donnie is distributing documents from Ms.
Welcome.
Jensen.
All right.
Thank you.
Sheriff Antonoro, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. Story County Sheriff Gerald Antonoro for the record. Here to reiterate what the residents there in Lockwood say. We have seen an uptick in criminal conduct in our area that pretty much ties directly back to the homeless encampments. Not here just to complain. In the past, when the homeless encampments have spilled over into Story County and up into the canyons, we have worked with Washoe County, the Sheriff's Office, Public Works Departments of both counties. We're here to offer any resources that the Sheriff's Office can provide, should we be able to find a resolution for this, because the problems that we have in Lockwood, and that is primarily an at-risk aged community. So a lot of concerns. We want to do anything that we can to help, and I'll send deputies over to help if that's necessary on your side.
Great. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Chairman Carmona.
Jay Carmona, Story County Commissioner for the record. Good morning to all the Washoe County Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here to support my constituents regarding this issue that currently affects both our counties. And I just wanted to let you all know, like the sheriff said, that if there's any regional solutions that we can be a part of, we are all ears. So thank you very much for the time, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Next up, we have Cindy Martinez, followed by Bruce Foster.
Good morning, Ms. Martinez.
Good morning, members of the commission, Mr. Manager, Mr. District Attorney, Madam Secretary, Madam Clerk, I'm sorry, fellow citizens. My fellow citizens are going to speak to constitutional issues of COVID. I'm going to approach this from a different perspective. I had many things printed out and things that I wanted to speak to, but I got to thinking about what we've not talked about. August 26th, 11 Marines, 1 Army soldier, 1 Navy corpsman were obliterated in a suicide bombing in Afghanistan. I'm a Marine veteran, and my heart was broken and my soul was inflamed with fury. And I thought about all of my fellow citizens who are facing an absolute destruction of constitutional representation. And I thought, what can I do differently? Been speaking here since December 15th, and talking about data about the COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, the doctors, essentially, et cetera. So I thought what I could do differently today is I could offer to my fellow citizens access to information that they're not being afforded because it's censored. So if you are in the auditorium today, and if you are open-minded enough or curious, please take your pen and paper, prepare to take copy. Go to Mercola.com, that's Dr. Mercola, a doctor of osteopathy. Dr. Peter McCullough, a doctor who was excluded from Baylor University for his change of support for the narrative of 2020. Dr. Judy Mikovits, Mikovits, PhD. Dr. Sherry Tenpenny, doctor of osteopathy. Dr. David Martin, who has researched the patents of SARS-CoV-2, as well as the chronology of patents for the vaccines. You'll find a chronology of criminology and apparent racketeering in that regard. Rainer Fuellmich, Fuellmich, a German attorney who has assembled a COVID-19 committee and is suing the World Health Organization for what's been perpetrated on the globe. Dr. Brian Ardis, B-R-Y-A-N, last name A-R-D-I-S, a doctor who will reveal and explain the dangers of the administration of remdesivir in the hospital environment, where they are refusing ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and even oxygen to patients who are presenting with symptoms as a result of COVID-19 vaccine side effects and results of the spike protein creating micro blood clots in the capillary system. And lastly, Geert Vanden Bossche, GeertVandenBossche.org, who spoke to antibody-dependent enhancement in April of 2021, which is what we are being vaccinated into. Thank you.
Next up, we have Bruce Foster, followed by Melanie Sutton.
Good morning, Mr. Foster.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. For the record, I'm Bruce Foster, a long line of patriots that began with Thomas Foster that fought in the Revolutionary War and received 100 acres signed off by Patrick Henry and Thomas Merriweather. Today, I am placing the indictment to the governor, to the State Board of Health, to the medical industry, all the way down to this commission. And it's all about, the indictment is that the industry is killing people, not healing. They took a Hippocratic oath, which they are not following, and I think examples of that will begin with me. My journey began last year, and I asked my provider, Northern Nevada Medical, what I can do in preparation of if I get the China virus. They said nothing. They said, get the jab. So long story short, I am now recovering from the China virus. Don't worry, I am negative. And thankfully for Dr. Fong, we were able to track down ivermectin, and I went through that whole regimen, therapeutics, et cetera. I am totally healed. And it took a while to get ivermectin. Everybody was out. That's a good question. Why? I have another example of that. I have a friend of ours, a lady friend that's a retired RN. I will read her very short summary of what she had to deal with. Hi, ladies. I think some of you have decided not to get the vaccine might be discouraged, seeing how sick I have been in the wake of my illness. Firstly, I want to acknowledge what a wake-up call it had been for all of us, as we have thought to be well prepared with our medications, etc., should any of us become infected. I want to encourage all of you to see things through a lens of fear. The vaccine may not be helpful, as there is enough literature out there to support either ideation. The side effects of the vaccine remain. None of that has changed. There is no guarantee for any of us that should choose the vaccine that you might not see side effects. What has become perfectly clear to me in recent days is that you have become symptomatic, take your meds as prescribed, and continue to worsen. You will not lightly to get the traditional medical community, the hospital.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Mr. Foster, thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Melanie
Thank you,
Sutton, followed by
Mr.
Catherine
Foster.
Snedegar.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. All right. Welcome, Ms. Sutton.
Good morning. As I come every other time, we are here asking the end to the public health emergency because there is no public health emergency. A few months ago, I gave each of you guys a copy of the Constitution. Obviously, you either haven't read it or you don't care about it. So the states are what gave the federal government their power, and when they overstep what they're allowed to do, the states was to take it back. Well, our governor's not doing it. So guess who else's responsibility is to keep our constitutional rights? That is you. You guys are supposed to keep our constitutional rights and not allow the tyrant to take over our rights. And second of all, we do know that there is someone here running in 2022. Guess what? We will be doing everything in our power to let everyone know that people donating money to you, we'll let them know what kind of tyrant you are, keeping our freedoms.
Next up, we have Catherine Snedegar, followed by Daniel Purdy.
Ms. Snedegar. Welcome.
For the record, I'm Catherine Snedegar, a non-person, non-resident, unenfranchised natural woman. The only pandemic we have is sitting right up here at the dais. This meeting is open every time they have a meeting, with this is the regular business meeting of the county. Well, so you're acting in a proprietary capacity as a corporation then. And you are not acting under the Constitution to protect our rights. And you know it. And that's a crime. I do believe that since one of the commissioners agreed to back hydroxychloroquine because it helped one of his family members and did a quick about-face when he was promised political gain. And now, he doesn't back it anymore. One of his family members was saved from it. But we can't have it. This vaccination has caused kids from the ages of 7 to 17, 42% are permanently blind. 46% of those are permanently deaf, which obviously some of them are blind and deaf. And this is from the kill shot. This is not a vaccine to protect people. On your own website for the health department, it says it will not kill the COVID. It will not prevent you from getting it. You'll probably be sick for a few weeks, but that's okay. That's normal. Who the hell are you trying to kid? There are plenty of things out there without the jab that will help us get better. But you all want everybody to get the jab, the kill shot. It's a bioweapon. It caused this kid who's 18 years old, senior in high school, to get myocarditis because in order to play football, he had to get the kill shot. He was not informed of the dangers of this. Nobody has been, because you and the news media and the governor are keeping it all suppressed. Blood clots, seizures, arms and legs needing to be amputated, people having metallic things in their bodies that they can hold a light bulb and light it up. This is not for our benefit, it's to our detriment. And as far as I'm concerned, You're guilty of mass murder.
Thank you, Ms. Snedegar.
Daniel Purdy, followed by Anne Marie Grant.
Welcome, Mr. Purdy.
Thank you. Daniel Purdy for the record, brother of Thomas Purdy, murdered at Washoe County Jail. I'm quite sure you know who I am and who my brother is, and if you don't, that's a goddamn shame. For the longest time, you guys have been up here, you have been told what's going on up at the jail. You choose to do nothing about it. You give them 51% of your budget. This guy over here donates an F-3 tactical robot with taxpayer money, gets called out on it, then makes another donation to something that's, you know, more doable. But you guys just keep pushing money on the sheriff, money, money, money. You think that's gonna solve the problem. Where some social programs would help. You don't help the homeless, that's for sure. I've been down through downtown Reno. It's gotta be the sickest thing I've ever seen in my damn life. You got homeless everywhere. What are you doing to help them? Because I don't see it. I hear a lot of talk that goes on up here, but I never, ever have seen any action since the time I've been here against that jail to help the homeless and everything else. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Purdy.
Anne Marie Grant, followed by Aaron Massengab.
Anne Marie Grant, sister of Thomas Purdy, murdered at Washoe County Jail. My brother was 38 years old, the father of two. My best friend, when he had a mental health crisis as a guest in this community at the Peppermill Casino. Can you please look when I'm speaking? That's very rude for you to do whatever you're doing when your public is here speaking. This is who you represent, so listen when we speak. My brother had a mental health crisis. All he did was ask for help. Reno PD showed up and hogtied him for 40 minutes. Washoe County Sheriff's Office then kept him hogtied. He told them he couldn't breathe. He told them he was going to die. He told them they were going to kill him. This community has several George Floyds of their own that nobody wants to acknowledge or talk about. My brother was one of 3 men asphyxiated at the jail by deputies within a year. He was not the only man asphyxiated in this community. Reno police asphyxiated Micah Abbey, another mentally ill man. The chief of Sparks Police was involved in the asphyxiation death of Christopher Talencon. I need the overhead, please. I don't know how to use it.
Can we get the overhead, please? If you place the, whatever you need to show us right there on that white area.
This is my brother being murdered at the jail. Does it not do audio?
No, it doesn't do audio, man.
They're gonna kill me. That's what he's screaming. They're gonna kill me. They're gonna kill me. As he's screaming in pain after being hogtied 40 minutes like a wild animal against every single page of the manual. Prone restraint kills. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. All they had to do was get a pair of scissors and cut them off. Instead, they cared more about property than human life. Every day of my life, I see this replay over and over. This could be anyone in this room's loved one, including yours, including yours, including yours. Because when law enforcement kill, they don't discriminate, no matter what anybody believes. They thought my brother was homeless. That's why they did this. Because I've seen the way the police treat the members of this community that are houseless, and it's disgusting. My brother was a guest in this community. He ended up dead. And shame on you, Bob Lucy, for trying to silence the community, stopping the Zoom meetings. Kitty Jung can call in, but...
Thank you, Mrs.
Aaron Massengab, followed by Patty Tone.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
I'm here to request you agendize and pass a resolution to end the public health emergency and to ban vaccine passports or any sort of vaccine verification system. On September 20th, when the FDA approves the third shot as ordered by the current administration, those with 2 shots will be considered as unclean as those with none. It is not the virus or a virus that is killing people in the ICU. It is the CDC protocol. Promoting a 2-class system, the discrimination of and desegregation of people based on medical status is something that everyone should be condemning. Your silence condones modern-day discrimination, and it is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Massengum.
Patty Tone, followed by Tracy Thomas.
Good morning.
Welcome,
Tricia
Ms. Tone.
Toon for the record. I am a nurse, and last year we were heroes. This year we're criminals because we declined after informed consent of getting the jab. So September 17th is Constitution Day per Public Law 108-447. Federal agencies and schools receiving federal funds are required to teach the Constitution on that day or risk losing federal funding. It shows 90% are non-compliant. I know you all are aware of that because I spoke a couple weeks ago, but I haven't seen anything happening in Washoe. On Thursday, the Board of Supervisors for Carson City will issue a proclamation to recognize September 17th as Constitution Day. That's a great start. I'm going to quote a couple quotes. Clarence Thomas, the U.S. Supreme Court Justice, said, "As I have traveled across the country, I've been astounded as to just how many of our fellow citizens feel strongly about their constitutional rights but have no idea what they are, or for that matter, what the Constitution says. I'm not suggesting they become constitutional scholars, however whatever that means. I'm suggesting, however, that if one feels strongly about his or her rights, it does make sense to know generally what the Constitution says about them. It's at least as easy to understand as a cell phone contract, but vastly more important." Excuse me, Thomas Jefferson said the pursuit of happiness, quote, "a wise and frugal government which shall leave men free to regulate their own pursuits of industry improvement and shall not take from the mouth of labor bread it has earned. This is the sum of a good government." And I'll end with a quote by George Washington. Under the Constitution, the power under the Constitution will always be in the people. It is entrusted for certain defined purposes, and for those certain limited period to representatives to their own choosing, and whenever it is exercised contrary to the interests or not agreeably to their wishes, those servants can and undoubtedly be recalled. Thank you. I hope that you'll do something for Constitution Day. It is our country's best document. Other countries follow us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy Thomas, followed by Diane Crown.
Welcome, Ms. Thomas.
Good morning. Psalms 127:1 teaches us, "Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Unless the Lord watches over the city, the guards stand watch in vain." When addressing today's agenda on Wild Creek, the medical examiner, and the voting items, please consider the following. Thank you for protecting one of the last affordable golf courses in the Sparks community. Next, why isn't Washoe County providing vital statistics like Clark County's coroner has? Citizens have paid and are owed the same transparency. The last annual report posted is 2018. Please report the pure COVID-19 deaths for 2021 immediately on Washoe County's website. To be clear, that is the number of deaths with no other medical issues. If obesity is a pre-existing condition to 72% of the COVID deaths, why aren't you mandating weight loss? Obesity has been a greater threat to our public health than COVID or opioids for years. It doesn't fit any political narrative, but there's certainly money to be had. That is the primary motivation in all this, right? The money? You gotta follow the money? The signature pads used in the 2018 elections were much more efficient in collecting voter signatures and helped encourage intake staff to actually check them. This is one of the first things intake staff stop doing when they get busy. Please ensure Washoe County's next solution reestablishes and mandates bipartisan verification signatures at the intake stations before a voter card is activated. This integrity measure was in place years ago, but was covertly traded off for expediency. Expediency at the intake is no benefit when voters then have to wait in a second line for a voter machine to become available. This valuable time could instead be used by a second party verifying that signature. Nevada revised statute stipulates a voter identity is to be verified before a voter card is issued. If you are going to insist on using a compromised vendor for the voting machines, at the very least, ensure they are not the same vendor for the election servers. This is equivalent to letting the fox watch the hen house. Have you personally verified forensic images of last year's election servers? Are you aware that the voting machines and servers are part of the data that must be preserved for 22 months after an election according to federal law? Washoe County has historically reused these machines every election, thereby overriding and corrupting the previous election data on those machines. Please verify we have every image and do not blindly trust this foreign vendor. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Diane Crown, followed by Marie King.
Welcome, Ms. Crown.
Good morning. I'm Diane Crown. I'm a Unitarian Universalist and proud of it. And I am also a hale and hearty and healthy 82-year-old looking forward to my third vaccination. And I want to thank everyone in this room who is wearing a mask and respecting my need to remain healthy. Thank you very much. And thank you, commissioners, for your responsible and competent work for the citizens of this county and for your respect of federal law and mandates. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. My real reason for being here today was not to tell you how healthy I am after my vaccinations. I just felt really, really compelled to do that. However, I am here to request that you kindly consider the priorities of Faith in Action Nevada. You have seen this one earlier. It's not legible. You might see mine coming along. I'm sorry I missed your meeting, your hearing on this issue. But we had a meeting, as you heard earlier, and we listed a huge number of priorities, and it seems almost impossible that any would be really bubbling to the top. As a former school teacher, I personally wish that we were not on the bottom of the national list for respecting and supporting our students. I would like to see some improvement, please, in education in this community. However, at our meeting, I was not surprised that when we voted on the priorities we spoke about, that indeed many of the issues you heard today bubbled to the top. And please let me just remark on three. I will read them quickly and briefly. Low-income affordable housing. Oh my God, haven't we heard today about the homeless? Something needs to be done. The second priority, environmental and climate change infrastructure, please. Wildfire detection systems are already a reality. Let's support more. And the third, please, food insecurity for many of those people who are in homeless encampments, who do not have appropriate living, housing conditions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Crown.
I do have for the record the document that Ms. Crown referenced. And next up, we have Marie King.
Hi, my name is Marie King, and as you can see, I'm Betsy Ross today. As you know, September 17th is Constitution Day, and I've sat here several times and watched all of you bow your heads, look down, do something else, and ignore we, the people. And you're very rude.
I know each and every one of you took the oath. Do you remember what you felt like the first time you did? Where are you today? I'm sad to say I'm ashamed of each and every one of you, and it breaks my heart. So please take a minute or two and remember how you felt when you first got into office. Some of you have been in office for a couple of years, several years, and it doesn't matter to you. Others, maybe it does. But I like to have a solution to everything. And my solution is today, you guys all need to resign.
Ms. King did supply a document that is placed on the record and distributed to the board.
Thank you,
And
Madam Clerk. Do
That is
appreciate
all
it.
the public comment we have.
All right, we will close item 3, and we will move on. I'm sorry, item 4, Mr. Manager, we're on to item 5, sir.
Item 5 is Commissioners and County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates, to include boards and commissions updates, requests for information on topics for future agendas.
Great, Mr. Manager, do you have anything this morning that you would like to share?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I do want to announce once again that next Monday, the 20th, is the day that the county will adopt a new domain name for our website and our email addresses. Instead of washoecounty.us, they will become washoecounty.gov. Reason we're doing this is to improve the security of our digital communications. The .gov domain has been expressed as a preference by Homeland Security and other agencies, and it's for that reason that we will make that transition on Monday. The change will be seamless for users, so the old email addresses and domain names for websites will continue to work, but over time we will transition our communications to reflect the .gov instead of the .us moniker, so that nobody has to do anything differently. There are some internal interface issues with some of our software platforms that tech services will have to work through. But again, Monday we become washoecounty.gov. That's it for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. All right, and so I will go to Commissioner Herman first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am going to be repetitive because I have stated some of these things several times, many times. And I'm strongly recommending that we agendize the following items. Number 1, we need to end the public emergency and bring us back to normal, to freedom, to a constitutional existence. 2, we need to ban any vaccine mandates. Ban them. Number 3, we desperately need a forensic audit of the 2020 election. Number 4, we need to make this a Second Amendment county. And I will keep on saying these things until I get results. I strongly recommend that we do these things. I look at Lander County and I see them not being afraid to face the truth and the need for some of these things. Election integrity, for one, that they are really facing and fighting for. In Texas, Governor Abbott signed election reform. They're not afraid. Why are they not afraid? And regarding freedom of speech, constitutional thing, in our county, and I think they've overstepped their bounds, but we have developers who have sued not only individuals, but even an HOA. One for $1,200 and one for $16,000. And have financially hurt them to the degree that they're almost afraid to speak in public comment. There's something called a SLAPP suit, and that's what they're using to do this. However, I think that, like I said, they may have overstepped their bounds because we have had some laws passed, I may be mistaken, but this one says it's an anti-SLAPP law. The silver state sets the gold standard. And I've been looking up everything I can find. And I think we better start thinking about looking into this, because if I'm sitting here as a commissioner and we as a board are not protecting the people's private right to speak in public comment, I think we're missing our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hill, I have you send in next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, I had stated this during our Truckee Meadows Fire Board meeting, but I just think it's worth repeating that I know that this board really gives our thanks for the first responders who have been helping with the Caldor and Dixie fires. And I know that it was incredible to have blue skies for the balloon races. I hope people were able to go out for that and really bring the community together. It was an amazing event. So I just want to thank our first responders and also our emergency manager department. They did a lot of work for us, even though it wasn't our jurisdiction, and we were out there helping the sheriff's office and as well as TM Fire. And I know that there was some public speakers on the American Recovery Act and how their voices can get heard. And I just want to let folks know that we are doing a public engagement process. The details have not been released to the public, but we will be accepting public comments on the American Recovery Plan and how you'd like to see the county spend those monies. And so look for that, and we'll make sure we get that out at our meetings. And I'm really excited to the county manager's .gov, WashoueCounty.gov announcement instead of .us. I don't think folks realize the accessibility of our websites is going to dramatically change. So if you are hearing impaired, sight impaired, or if you want to read the website in a different language, the accessibility is going to increase dramatically. So I'm really proud of Washoe County for doing that, and for the staff. I know it was a really big lift, so congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to let you know that my Senior Services Advisory Board is still, it's your board, not mine, I'm your liaison to it, is still meeting regularly and have elected a new chair, Haba Safa Ahmed, and you will see before you in the next month the new appointments as well. We've had some people term out who then don't get kicked off. They become an advisory non-voting member. So there's a lot of continuity there. And I know they'd love to be able to be there with you today too, but they are mindful of the high extreme level that we have of COVID transmission right now, as I am. But I wanted you to just be on the lookout for that. And if you ever want to come with me to a meeting or to any gathering, they would love to see all of you. And they thank you for considering them for the ARPA money, and will be coming forward with their priorities as well to advise you and this board when it comes to senior services. So I'm really proud of them. I know you would be if you saw them in action. They are, this never stopped them. COVID never stopped them. They went right to Zoom. My Senior Services Advisory Board went right to Zoom and just kept on cruising. They had their senior games, of course, under the sanctions of COVID safety through the CDC, but they never did. They just never stopped and never lost momentum, and are only gaining more members. So I also encourage you, because we have alternates that get to vote if somebody isn't there. I encourage you to look in your districts too for some more senior activists. They'd love to have them. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to note that I attended Ron Smith's memorial, and there was some folks asking about a proclamation for the Constitution. I have no issue with that at all, but I would like to remind them that this commission asked for a memorial at the courthouse that was just that. It was the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the U.S. Constitution, and it was turned down, but it will be at the Veterans Memorial in Sparks. So I'm happy to sponsor that proclamation. I apologize I can't be there today, but I thank you so much for coming out. And then, Mr. Manager, and Mr. Chairman, let's have a conversation with Congressman Amodei regarding BLM lands that are in District 4 adjacent to Lockwood. We have no authority to run those folks off of those properties. That is BLM enforcement area, and I mean, I would love to have that conversation with them, because we have no actual authority. The sheriff would be the one to do that, but perhaps we can reach out to the BLM district manager and to Congressman Amodei to get some resolve with that. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair. All right, I have a few things this morning. Obviously, I want to address a couple some of the public comment discussions this morning as it pertains to Wild Creek and the open space potential between the city of Sparks and Washoe County and the residents around Wild Creek. This morning's resolution within the consent agenda is just a resolution to initiate the process. The intent is to obviously turn the property over to First Tee and have those individuals run in management, very much similar to what we do with Washoe Golf Course. However, in conjunction with that MOU and this that memorandum of understanding and this resolution, the intent is also to include within those contracts and within that MOU to maintain, if golf ever or cease to exist at that property, that would revert back to open space and maintain its level of open space. So that is the intent of what we are working on today. So I want to make sure that for clarity for individuals, that is part of the agenda item. This is just part of the initial process to start that. As it pertains to Ms. Jansen, Chairman Carmona, and Sheriff Antonoro, I would like to see us have some discussions, as the Vice Chair pointed out, with BLM and in regards to those homeless camps and how we can assist. I know the Assistant County Manager who is overseeing these operations has been paying attention, has been taking notes, and will be in contact with Sheriff Balaam and try to coordinate something between both jurisdictions. I would like to also ask for a future agenda item for a 2-hour rule discussion by this board in regards to a community center in Incline Village, a discussion of a community center and what that looks like in regards to public safety, community services, and also the justice system for Incline. There has been a challenge for a number of years up there in regards to our disconnected facilities. I'd like to unify all of those departments and make that more efficient. So I'd like a 2-hour discussion on that. And I'd also like to get an update probably brought to this board next month in regards to where we are with the land study and also the lands bill, so that we have an understanding and can bring that forward as we talk about the disposition of the ARP funds and what that's going to look like going forward. I think that it's important that we have that study and some of that data completed so that we can better utilize, make those policy decisions from this dais in regards to the disposition of those funds for whether that's low-cost housing, different opportunities, incentives for businesses, whatever that may be. I'd like to have those conversations. And on a lighter note, I want to thank everybody for, if they had the opportunity to get out this weekend and from Thursday to Sunday and participate. Too bad, unfortunately, we had to cancel on Friday. The Great Balloon Races, the Great Reno Balloon Races were held at our signature park, Rancho San Rafael. And for all of those that got to attend, it was a great community event. It was fantastic to see the community come together, everybody in high spirits to enjoy really what Northern Nevada has to offer. If you were out there on Saturday or Sunday morning, you got to see a spectacular, beautiful sunrise and some wonderful balloons and a lot of community spirit. And that is really what Northern Nevada is all about. And it was nice to see that. That return to normalcy is what I would call it. And it felt great to be out there with my kids and my family. So that's all I have. I also want to thank our staff, both at the REOC and at RSCVA and at TMFPD for all of their work on the Dixie and Caldor fires. We opened the convention center to evacuees from the South Lake Tahoe area. We at one point had almost 300 individuals with animals and pets. Our animal services department helped with the evacuations of South Lake Tahoe for individuals needing places to board dogs and cats or any livestock that they may have had in South Lake. So I want to thank Animal Services for helping Douglas County and the state through those operations. That was a very, very dangerous and horrific event with the winds and the dry patterns, and we were very lucky. God bless that we got the rain that we did because it did make a significant change to the outcome of that fire and the fires up north as well. So I'm looking forward to hopefully some quieting down of our fire season and appreciating some of that fuels management discussions that we have going on as well with our lands bill. So with that, I will conclude and close item 5 for today.
Chairman.
Oh, Mr. Vice Chair.
Sorry, thank you. And I want to thank you for bringing up Wild Creek. I neglected to do that, and I apologize. There is an MOU in the process, as you may recall, for the entire facility, not just, first tee golf, that if it ever stops being a facility that's used for golf, it will revert back to Washoe County. So recall, we could not deed restrict it, and that was not possible. But this is a way that we can do that. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and we are working on that with Sparks. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Vice Chair. All right, seeing nothing further, I'm going to close item 5. We will move on to 6. This is our consent agenda for the morning. And I'm going to ask the commission, is there anything in the consent agenda that any individuals would like pulled for further discussion? Commissioner Herman.
I had a couple questions about 3 of these items.
Okay. Would you like to pull them for consideration, or do you want to leave them in consent?
Maybe we can just get an answer on
Okay.
them. I'll read them off so you can decide how we need to do that.
Perfect.
6A1,
Okay.
I just wanted to make a comment. And I have a question. This is about the work that's being done on the South Truckee Meadows, and I think it's wonderful. We've been very responsible in providing that service to that area, and we have been doing a great job. I think the county does a pretty good job of getting that sort of thing done. But how do we get the city of Reno to be responsible for the North Valleys? There's quite a gap in there, and I don't know if, that's just probably on that one, my comments.
Okay.
Just wanted to get that out. 6B1, I had a question as to, did this VOTEC thing have anything to do, could it have caused any inaccuracies in the election? That's just a question I'm asking about that. 6E1 was my things about Wild Creek, and I just want to reiterate what everybody's trying to say about that, and that is that we want to make sure that we are secure in the contract, that never will be arbitrarily sold off of the county's records. And so by transferring the ownership of it temporarily, does that put us in any danger of, causing them to worry more about it? So I just wanted probably a legal opinion on that.
Okay, so what I propose is that we leave 6A1 and 6B1 in consent, and we'll pull 6E1 out to get a better explanation from staff in regards to 6E1 and that resolution, and kind of the process in which, for clarity for all those here in the chambers, in regards to that issue. So if that's okay with you?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Manager, is there, by chance, is there a possibility for you to answer Commissioner Herman's question in regards to the VOTEC settlement in 6B1 as it pertains? My understanding with 6B1 is that this is the claim in regards to the machines and their inability to perform under the duties of their contract. They had nothing specifically with the operations of the equipment, correct?
That's correct, and so the answer to her question is no. There would not have been any exposure to the accuracy of the elections because we didn't use what they provided.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so as I see, what we'll do is we'll pull item 6E1 out of consent. And so I'm going to ask, we'll open 6E1 right now. And I'm going to ask Mr. Crump or Mr. Solero to come down and give us a presentation in regards to Wild Creek and answer Commissioner Herman's questions. Anytime, Dave. No, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it in consent. I just want to open it so that you can answer questions for her specifically as it pertains to the timeline.
Got it, absolutely. So for the record, Dave Solero, Assistant County Manager. This item is simply a notice to our community that at some point in the future, and I'm suggesting October 12th meeting, we have a public hearing to hear objections to the intent to transfer this property to First Tee of Northern Nevada to provide community service to our community, which is low-cost golf as well as other civic duties as far as the teachings that they do to our youth and our community, not only about golf, but about just being civically minded individuals. And so the intent here is that at that meeting, we will also bring back a purchase and sale agreement draft with all the provisions that are necessary for this board to direct either the manager or myself to execute those documents as we go through the transfer process. One of those items would be a reversionary clause associated with the property that if the First Tee of Northern Nevada is unsuccessful at this mission or decides that, that they no longer want to provide this to our community, that property will revert back to Washoe County. So that is the way this is currently scheduled for setting up. That takes care of that alleviates the fear that everybody has that First Tee will, take this property and sell it. That will not be possible through this process. So if there are any other questions, I can take those.
No, I hope that answers that question for some of the folks. But we will have a hearing on it, is that clear?
That is correct.
the
There will
way
be
it's gonna go?
a
Okay,
hearing to hear objections.
all right.
Chairman,
Uh,
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Hartung.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Solero, is there any type of I'm going to call it a handoff clause if First Tee decides that they're not going to do it, but still leaves it in the hands of another golf administrator? Is there anything of that nature, or would it automatically, if First Tee doesn't use it any longer, it automatically reverts to Washoe County and then we institute another contract?
That is correct. If First Tee is no longer able to perform the service or decides not to, they cannot sublet that property, so to speak. It would come back to Washoe County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Solero.
All right. Seeing no other further questions, I think all of our questions for the consent agenda have been answered this morning. So I'm going to move forward looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted.
So, me.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. So a motion from Commissioner Herman, second from Commissioner Hill. I will call for the vote. Is there any public comment?
Mr. Chairman, there is public comment on item 6E1.
All right, I'll take public comment.
So I will call first John Hesse, followed by Darlene Hesse.
They're no longer,
Looks like
they're
they-
no longer in the auditorium.
They left, so Wesley Griffin, followed by Darla Lee.
I believe Miss Lee is our
Like
only one
Wesley
here.
is gone as well, so Darla Lee.
Welcome, Miss Lee.
Good morning. I am speaking, my Darlene and John and Wes did need to leave, but they asked me to speak for them. The Wild Creek project that you're about to vote on is another step in the right direction for Wild Creek residents and community. The face of neighborhoods do change and evolve over time. That's just a fact. And that has certainly happened to the Wild Creek golf course in that area. But it's also true that every neighborhood should have some open space for physical health and, quite frankly, mental sanity. The process of preserving Wild Creek Golf Course has been a long road, and having First Tee at the course has been talked about for years. It is a great benefit to the students who will learn to play golf along with valuable life lessons, and also continue to provide affordable golf, for all citizens. So I urge you to approve this proposal, and I also want to see the suggested staff wording added to it before the future hearing. And I know that's been alluded to, but I wanted to point again to the fact that the resolution that you approved today does not have this wording, which in fact is the staff has proposed. In the event the title reverts to the guarantor, the county will designate the property in perpetuity as a public park, open space area, and/or golf course for the benefit of the general public. And that is what we have wanted for a very long time, to have this guarantee, if you will, and if it's in the process, that's fine, but I want to see it in black and white. I realize there are no real guarantees in this world, especially where government is involved, but for at least the foreseeable future, please add this wording so that Wild Creek Golf Course will be allowed to be a blessing to golfers, students, and all the rest of us.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
There's
All right.
nobody else signed in.
All right, seeing no further public comment, we will close public comment on item 6. We have a motion from Commissioner Herman, second from Commissioner Hill. I will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Next, I'm going to propose a block vote for this morning. And we have a significant amount of items for the block. I am going to put into a motion, in the form of a motion, recommended that we block vote items 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
could we pull item 10?
I'm going to maintain item 10 today, thank you, sir,
Okay.
and move forward with item 10 in the idea of time and moving forward with the process. It would, holding up item 10 would slow, unnecessarily slow a process that are already in place, so I'm going to move forward with 10. My recommendation is to vote for a block vote of items 7 through 19. Do I have a second on that for a block vote, or do I have any opposition to those block votes?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
I have a second from the Vice Chairman. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was hoping we could table item 10. I had asked staff for some additional information on item 10, and they were not able to get back to me. And I'm happy to explain why I think this is important for tabling.
The floor is yours, ma'am. You can do that right now at this point.
Okay. Well, as the commission knows, we all just went through a budget process, and I know that staff worked very hard to ensure that we got all the information we needed so we could approve the budget for the next fiscal year. And it's really tough for me as a commissioner to see 13 reclass requests within the budget when we've already gone through a budget process. And within this staff report, I don't see in the fiscal discussion that these reclasses can necessarily be sustained in the budget, which is what I asked for by staff to go over for us. And I'm assuming that they would be, but with language that if contingency funds are needed, a separate item will be brought to the board. I don't want this if contingency is needed kind of stuff. I think it's really important that we understand the breakout on what this looks like for each one of these departments. And I'm sure I'm looking at these reclasses and I think that they're needed. There's no question, but I just wonder process-wise why they didn't go through the budget process and whether this is a way that I feel like usurps our process as board members to ensure that we're just spending the money of the taxpayer to the best and most fiscally responsible way. And so the other thing is, once these budgets are approved, once these reclasses are approved, we're set in stone with reclasses. So the next fiscal year, we're looking at additional costs to the general fund that we haven't been able to consider through a budget process. So that's my argument. I'm just asking for a tabling so I can have additional information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I would offer in discussion that these reclassifications many a times initially start out in the budget process as one individual or another, however, need to be changed due to grant funding, whatever that may be, to secure additional funding outside of the county, and a certain title or how it's recommended under our pay scale would not be considered for reimbursement. So many times it is a dynamic thing that we have done at the county for many years in my tenure. I believe this is probably the 8th or 9th time that we've done a reclassification. We've actually done multiple in a budget year. I'm happy. I would suggest, obviously, if this is of massive consternation for you and for some greater detail, I'd like to move forward with this because of the way we dynamically change here in the county and have to respond to certain issues. But I'm happy to take it out of the block, but I still would like to vote on it today based upon the need for a certain of these reclassifications to move forward with certain projects we are working for.
And I appreciate that. I'm not prepared to vote for this today, just with the lack of information.
Okay.
I think that, hopefully staff can wait until the 21st, which is our next meeting on Tuesday, until I can get additional information and feel more comfortable with this item and really understand, why we're doing it with what I feel like is not the best process for the county. I'm happy to hear from the other commissioners as well on their
Well,
item.
what I'll do is I'll recommend we take it out of the block and just move forward with blocking items 7 through 19 with the removal of 10 at this time. And we'll take 10 individually. So, Mr. Manager, if you'll read items 7 through 19, sir.
Item 7 is a recommendation to award a bid and approve the agreement to the lowest responsible bidder for the South Valley's Regional Sports Complex, Americans with Disabilities Act Improvements Project. Staff recommends Facilities Management, Inc. in the amount of $134,000 and approve a separate project contingency fund in the amount of $16,297 for a total project budget of $150,297. Item number 8 is a recommendation to approve an amendment number 2 in the agreement between Washoe County and MHW Constructors, KG Walters Construction, for CMAR pre-construction services for the South Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation 2020 Facility Expansion Project within the South Truckee Meadows Water Reclamation Facility Service Territory, $681,077.26. This amendment will allow for the necessary CMAR pre-construction services that the completion of the project allowing the county to benefit from reduced operational costs, value engineering, and constructionability savings during construction. Item number 9 is a recommendation to approve amendment number 1 to lease agreement between Rotor Investments of Nevada United Partnership in Washoe County for a 60-month term commencing retroactively from July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2026. $891,378 for the first-year term for the continued occupancy of the Sierra View Library Branch located in the Reno Town Mall, 4001 South Virginia Street, Reno, Nevada. Amendment number 1 includes a carpet replacement provided in year 2, in which costs are shared by Rotor and Washoe County. Fiscal impact is $160,000. Item number 11 is a recommendation to approve the calendar year 2022 health benefits program for employees, retirees, and their dependents in the approximate annual cost of $57.8 million, and authorize the Director of Human Resources, Labor Relations to execute all insurance contracts and service agreements pertinent to the health benefits program. Item number 12 is a recommendation to accept an FY22 fund for a Healthy Nevada Subgrant Award from Nevada Clinical Services, Inc. through the State of Nevada, Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Public and Behavioral Health, and in the amount of $231,274 with no county match, retroactive from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, to support breakfast meals at Our Place and Tad's, food baskets for clients at Crossroads, and meals for the second home delivered meals program. Authorize the Director of the Human Services Agency to execute a grant award documents and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the necessary budget amendments. Item number 13 is a recommendation to accept an FY22 fund to assist former foster youth program subgrant award from the State of Nevada Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Child and Family Services, in the amount of $200,000 with no county match, retroactive from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, to provide case management and related services to youth aging out of foster care to provide non-county employee travel for youth travel to support permanent connections, normalcy activities, attaining a permanent living situation, and other travel needs. Authorize the Director of the Human Services Agency to execute the grant award and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the necessary budget amendments. Item number 14 is a recommendation to accept an FY22 Title 20 Subgrant Award from the Nevada Department of Health and Human Services in the amount of $663,807, no county match, retroactive from July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, to promote unification, safety, educational support, and normalcy for children in care. Authorize the Director of Human Services Agency to retroactively execute the grant award documents and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the necessary budget amendments. Item number 15 is a recommendation to accept FY22 Victims of Crime Act Subgrant Award from the State of Nevada Division of Child and Family Services in the amount of $951,057, $237,765 in county match, retroactive to the period of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. Authorize the creation of a full-time equivalent Human Services Worker 3 position with a fiscal impact of $127,627 and to reclassify existing 7009676 from a victim witness advocate pay grade to a Human Services Caseworker 3 pay grade with a fiscal impact of $9,254, with positions contingent on Job Evaluation Committee review and approval, funded 100% by the VOCA Grant Award, and as such, if grant funding is reduced or eliminated, the position hours will be reduced and/or the position will be abolished accordingly unless additional funding is secured. Direct the Human Services Department to make the necessary staffing adjustments as evaluated by the JEC. Authorize Director of Human Services Agency to execute the subgrant award and related documents, and direct the Comptroller's Office to make the necessary budget amendments. Recommendation to accept Community Corrections Partnership Block Grant from the Department of Health and Human Services Juvenile Justice Programs Office in the amount of $317,090.76 to provide treatment and programming to youth referred to in the Washoe County Department of Juvenile Services for the retroactive period of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. No match required. If approved, direct the Comptroller's Office to make the necessary budget amendments. Item number 17 is a recommendation to approve an interstate interlocal contract between the State of Nevada acting by and through its Department of Health and Human Services Division of Public and Behavioral Health, Lakes Crossing Center, and Washoe County for professional services in the form of mental health evaluations for criminal justice system defendants to be performed by the state effective July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2025 in the amount not to exceed $1,506,400 for the 4-year term, $376,600 annually. This agreement will replace the agreement approved by the Board of County Commissioners on June 22nd, 2021, due to a modification requested by the State of Nevada consisting of the addition of marriage and family therapists to the definition of mental health professionals in the scope of work portion of the agreement. Item number 18 is a recommendation to approve fiscal year 2021-2022 renewal of software licenses, software subscriptions, and sole source purchases of computer and network hardware through joinder with National Association of State Procurement Officers, master price agreements for the State of Nevada with CDW Government, Inc., and approve expenditures that will aggregate to exceed $100,000, but not to exceed $1,110,000 and will remain within the available technology services budget for FY 21-22, for the FY 21-22 general fund. Includes Office 365 EA subscriptions not to exceed $947,658. Adobe EA subscriptions not to exceed $52,513. Brook Trout not to exceed $6,500. GFI FaxMaker software renewal not to exceed $4,000. Printer Logic license renewals not to exceed $15,600. No before license renewals not to exceed $50,000, and other hardware, software subscriptions and maintenance costs not to exceed $13,727.96. Item number 19 is a recommendation to approve the purchase of consumables for the Thermo Fisher Life Technologies at an approximate cost not to exceed $400,000 annually, to include single purchases exceeding $100,000 for the retroactive term of July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022 for the purchase of consumables for use in the Forensic Science Division DNA section. Mr. Chair, that concludes the block vote.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Manager. So in the block, I have a motion by myself, a second by Vice Chair Hartung for items 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19 this morning. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment on any of those items that have been put into the block?
I have nobody signed in for any of those items.
All right, seeing no further public
Chair.
comment. Vice Chairman.
I just wanted to put on the record, seconder agrees to the removal of item 10.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. All right, so we have a motion and a second. We've taken public comment on all the items, seeing no public comment. We will call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. Based upon Commissioner Hill's request and her wish to have a further detail in regards to item 10 and how it impacts budget and budgetary process, I will pull that for today and allow for that to be re-agendized for a future meeting this month, so that we can answer any questions she may have to
Thank you,
those
Mr. Chairman.
for item 10. So today we will pull item 10 and take that at a later time this month after she's had some time to sit with staff. All right, so what that does is that takes us through a majority of our meeting. I'd like to jump to our public hearing first, item 21. Due to, we have individuals here for the public hearing. So let's,
Did we vote on the block?
yeah.
Yeah.
We did vote?
Yes, we took a vote.
Okay.
It passed unanimously. We all affirmed our votes. Clerk's got it on record. You okay?
Yeah.
Sure?
We're good.
You take a breath? You need a break? Too much going on?
I do need to take a breath.
Okay. All right. Here we go. I'm gonna open the public hearing. I'm gonna open item 21. So we are opening the public hearing. This is a conformance finding subject for the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. And so, Mr. Manager, I'll have you take us into this item, sir.
Item 21 is a public hearing subject to a finding of conformance with the Truckee Meadows Regional Plan by the Regional Planning Authorities to approve a resolution initiating an amendment to the 2019 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan Map 3 regional utility corridors and sites to include a 120 megawatt solar energy center containing 1,660
660, sir.
Is it 660? Oh, sorry. Well, plus or minus 660 contiguous acre solar fields, switch yard, 84 megawatt solar energy storage system, and new substations south of Flanagan and a short 34.5, kilovolt overhead transmission line connection from the project switchyard to an existing 345 kilovolt transmission line. In WSUP 21-0001, Rock Springs Solar.
All right. All right, Madam Clerk, is there any public comment signed in for this public hearing?
I have nobody signed in.
All right. Seeing no public comment signed in for this item, we will close public comment, bring it back to the board. Is there any discussion from the board in regards to this item? Commissioner Herman, this is in your district. Do you have any questions for staff?
Sorry about that. Always putting it on the wrong thing. I don't. I think we're filling what we need to do in order to provide the type of power that this will provide. So, no comments or questions.
Great. And for some edification for all those individuals, we do, if needed be, but I don't think we do need a presentation from staff in regards to this. This is the initial part of the process. This will come back. Obviously, if we find this in conformance, this will go on to the regional governing board for discussion because it is of regional significance. So this will have its next day with the regional governing board. Any further comments from any of the commissioners? All right, seeing none, I will close that. I'm looking for a motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion from Vice Chair Hartung, second from Commissioner Herman. Seeing that we've taken public comment, no further public comment, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Please affirm your votes on your screens. Motion carries unanimously with all commissioners voting. All right, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being patient for those of you who were here for that item this morning. And we will jump now to item 20. Mr. Manager.
Item 20 is a presentation by Washoe County COVID-19 Response Incident Commander Dave Solaro on COVID-19 Delta variant data and information in Washoe County to include an update on impacts, vaccination status, state directives in place, and general information for the community. Mr. Solaro.
All right, Mr. Solaro.
Good morning. For the record, Dave Solaro, Assistant County Manager. As requested by this board at our August 12th meeting, I am back to present to you an update on kind of the same data that I presented to you in August and the changes that have occurred here in September. I'd really like to make sure we, again, overview the objectives, give you those current updates and updates on our vaccination status, understanding of the current state of Nevada directives, and then newly presidential actions and potential impacts as we know them today, and then tips for the community to lessen the risk of COVID. So as you'll remember, the local authority plan was created utilizing these three objectives. I think it's important that we look at number 2 on this list, which is to deliver clear and consistent information to empower our citizens and visitors to make informed decisions. I would like to suggest that public comment at Washoe County Board of County Commission meetings is not a location to get information for you to make your decisions. I will get to it a little bit later, but if I don't make the comment related to the comment made earlier about 12 to 18-year-olds becoming blind by taking the vaccine, that is just ludicrous in my mind, and I need to get that out because what we're doing here is providing data for our community to be able to make informed decisions. We are not spreading lies or rumors. So I just want to make sure that that is understood by our community and by this board, and I know that this board is very, very well aware of that. So since I was here before you, sorry, it was August 16th, the information that was provided to you on that date is in blue in this chart. It's a little, formatting's a little difficult. And then the new information is in red, new information as of Sunday, the 12th of September. So the average number of tests per day, we were averaging about 185 in August. Now in September, we are 354 tests per day. That same period of time, our test positivity rate went from 18.4 to 20.1%. So a lot of people say, oh, you just need to test more people and drive that test positivity down. What we're showing right now is that COVID is prevalent in our community, and those that are getting tested are coming up positive. So the case rate per 100,000 has also climbed from 758 to 1,581. What this does is puts pressures on our disease investigators to the point that they are focusing again still this month on the pediatric cases, those people that are not able to get vaccinated, in an effort to help our school districts continue to stay open. The COVID risk meter is still in the very high range, although we ticked up from the low of the very high to the high of the very high. Our vaccination rate does continue to climb, albeit slowly, and you'll notice the percentage difference there between August and September is actually slower than the percentage rate of the number of tests being administered in our community. That has us with some concern. Additionally, the sewer data that is coming in from the University of Nevada that is testing the influent to the Truckee Meadows wastewater reclamation facility continues to show increasing concentrations of COVID in the waste stream. The other thing here I would like to point out are the deaths. Again, in just 1 month, the number of deaths have dramatically increased within our community as COVID continues to increase. The Hospital Association, I've done 2 slides here, so this is the information provided as of August 11th from the Hospital Association. You'll see the chart at the bottom with the north. It shows all the green with the exception of the ICU occupancy rates back a month ago was in the watch level. This month, however, we are starting to watch in a lot more categories, and the number of patients in the hospital with COVID has gone to a warning level, and then staffing is an alert level in the north. This is not just the Washoe County hospitals. This is all across kind of northern Nevada. The rural areas are running about the same watches and warnings as we are here in the local area. So one of the items that's provided on a daily basis by the state is the actual number of confirmed and suspected cases of COVID within our hospital system. As in August 16th, there were 133 confirmed and suspected. As of Sunday, there were 203, so that number continues to climb. Again, the increase as well in the total use of ICUs and the ventilators in our region continues to move up. Good news, though, is we do continue to slowly claw at vaccination rates within our community. I was hopeful that we'd actually have more vaccinations occurring with the increase in COVID in our community. But I think some of the information that some of our public commenters comment about are rampant within the social media circles, which might be keeping people that are on the fence to actually jumping in and getting vaccinated. I was on a call this morning listening in to the hospital CEOs. The majority of them are reporting that indeed the majority of the cases, a large majority of the cases within the hospital system right now are all unvaccinated. There's a whole list here of locations where our community can go and get a vaccine. In fact, our location here at 9th and Wells, a lot quicker to get a vaccination than it is to get a test today. So I wanted to touch again on the rules for masking within Washoe County. We are in the high and substantial transmission range for COVID per the CDC. Based on that, Directive 45 and 47, we are to be wearing masks indoors, whether you're vaccinated or not. The way for us to get off of this list is, again, to be below that substantial or high transmission rate for 2 consecutive weeks. This information is reported by the state every Tuesday. I probably have the notice in my email right now related to this, but good news, we can continue to mask for the next 2 weeks because we are still in the high and substantial transmission rate. So the way to get away from masking is to continue to mask to the point where our COVID levels go down. Just want to make sure that the community understands that that is one of the mitigations that's in place, and it does matter. It does make a difference for COVID transmission within our community. So the president last week had put forth his 6-point plan for COVID at a national level. I've just identified the items here. The federal workers will be required to be vaccinated. Private employers with over 100 employees will be required to mandate vaccinations or weekly tests on employees. Employers required to give paid leave. Double the fine for violations of the mask mandate on federally regulated travel. Roll out of booster shots starting the week of September 20th, and the FDA evaluation of vaccines for individuals under 12. All of these items came out as the plan moving forward. However, we are still waiting for Department of Labor as well as OSHA to come out with how this really impacts our employers in our area. So while I wanted to provide this information as an update of something new that has come forward in the last month, I also wanted to unfortunately let you know we don't have a lot of data on what this really means to our community. One thing that is kind of concerning to us right now is the private employers with over 100 employees be required to mandate vaccinations or weekly tests on employees. Currently, our community is struggling with testing. So as you noticed before, the number of tests per week has increased per population of 100,000. If we now have to throw on top of that a bunch of employees that have to test, not exactly sure how we're going to handle that flood coming in to our system. You know, the devil is in the details, and we hope to understand a little bit better from OSHA what that means. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of information other than increased testing in our community. We're struggling with it right now for symptomatic patients or symptomatic citizens. So we're a little concerned on what would happen when now a lot more of people that are not vaccinated are now flooding in trying to get testing for this. So tips for our community, again, get vaccinated, but inform yourself. And again, do not utilize the public comment at Washoe County Board of County Commission meetings as your source for information. Wear masks when indoors and where required. I still, when I go out, I was at a 7-Eleven the other day, I stopped in, I was like, I'm just gonna stop in and see what's going on, talk to the clerk. He's still struggling with 50% of the people coming into the 7-Eleven without masks, having to remind them to wear a mask. This is something that we need to do to help slow the spread in our community. This is important to slow the spread because of the data that we're showing for the hospitals. I'm not as concerned, quite frankly, about myself going into the hospital for COVID. What I'm concerned about is I get into a car accident on my way home, and there's no place for me to go because I've had a serious accident. Because the emergency rooms are jammed with people that are with COVID or other ailments within our community, and it is clogging up our system. So please, don't harass the employees of the business. They're just doing their job. Use the COVID risk meter. I'll have another slide about the COVID risk meter. Please stay home when you are ill. That is one of the easiest things we can do if we're ill, to stay home ourselves, to not send our sick children to school or daycare. And while you're awaiting a result for a test because you were symptomatic and you went to get that test, please stay home until you get those results. Doesn't do any good to be symptomatic. Go get a test and go carry about your daily business. Hygiene is still important, so please continue to wash your hands frequently. And while it is not a requirement, it is still a recommendation that social distancing is something that works. So when you're in a crowded area, be mindful. Those are all good things that you can do to do your part within the community. So again, this weekly rating is very high today, this week. That means the case numbers are high and hospital beds are filling up. We request that you utilize this meter to help yourself make informed decisions as you continue to go along your daily business within our community. COVID is real, it's here, and I'm going to continue to bring this information forward for you so that we can help inform our citizens on exactly what's going on within our community. And so they can make the informed decisions necessary to lead a healthy life. So with that, I'll open that up for questions of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Solero. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great presentation. Thank you so much, Mr. Solero. I wanted to talk to you about the local plan and how we're learning a lot in this process with reopening and learning best practices and finding that maybe the local plan we adopted isn't working for us necessarily, because we're at the point where maybe social distancing would be required, and we're not hearing from the experts that they think that that's necessarily what we need to be doing at this point. Is there any possibility for the board to give more authority to this task force that you have of the hospital associations, the city of Reno, the city of Sparks, the school district, Washoe County, obviously? Am I missing anyone else who's on the task force?
The health district.
The health district, yes, very important. To provide us with a little bit more direction on what can we do to make sure that our communication with the community is really clear, and that whatever plan revisions we put out there, that we're following them. What kind of thoughts do you have about how we can proceed with that?
I appreciate the question. You're absolutely right. When we put this local authority plan together, the thinking at the time was, as we come out of COVID, if something happens in the future, the thing we should do is go back to what we were doing before. And so the assumption in the plan was that if the cases started to increase, that we would revert back to something. We didn't forward think enough to understand that based on what we're seeing within our community, this whole discussion around compliance versus defiance would lead to this group determining that social distancing, a mandate for social distancing, may be more harmful than it is good. And so I appreciate that some members of our community are looking at our local authority plan and saying, you've hit this trigger. Why aren't we closing down restaurants, or why aren't we going into social distancing and a few of those other things? And I think that this plan maybe wasn't flexible enough to give the local team the authority necessary to not implement stricter measures, because the stricter measures might actually do more harm than no measures at all. We do have, vaccination rates continue to climb. The masking mandate from the governor's office, those are two tools that are very helpful in slowing this down. And again, this isn't about eradicating COVID. This is about slowing COVID down so that our hospital resources are there for when people need them. Whether there's direction from this board to amend this plan to give the incident management team and the local authority strike team more latitude and an ability to go through this iterative process that we're going through. We meet every Friday. We talk about the pros and cons of different recommendations that would come before this board. I could certainly take some direction and talk with that team about what their thoughts around maybe a proposal to implement different changes within this plan to give the plan more flexibility. So certainly I would take that direction today as well.
Great. Well, and I maybe that's something we should discuss as a board. And I was thinking also for the hospitals, are they being given enough support on saying we're not going to do elective surgeries anymore, or kind of making decisions on clawing back some of the things in their business plans to ensure that they're caring for the sick in our community?
Again, through the chairman to the commissioner, did sit in on that call this morning with the CEOs of the hospital association. I'm not going to divulge any of the discussion that occurred there. That was their meeting that they were kind enough to let me at least listen in on. I think some of those discussions, however, are happening within the hospital community, because their job is to make sure that they are prepared to take care of the emergency services that come in within our community. And so I think those discussions are actually happening in a productive way, based on what I listened to this morning. I'm not so sure that there's a mandate that is necessary at this time, but certainly continuing that dialogue with that group to verify that we're at least all playing on the same field. They are very collegial and trying to help each other out, and this was not just in the Washoe County area, but also across the state in just talking about how we can take care of the patients that we have, the patients that are coming in, the patients and the agreements we have with other states, and the pressures that are being held, that are found within those other states. So I think that discussion is actually happening a little bit better than potentially we've gotten information earlier in the week. So at this point, I feel comfortable, moving forward and monitoring that situation. I do believe that the hospitals are doing a very good job at trying to manage day to day with the burden that they've got from our community.
Okay, great news. Glad to hear it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Commissioner Hartung or Commissioner Jung, do you have anything?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay,
I would like to cede the floor to the vice chairman. Thank you.
okay, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, I had nothing. Go ahead, Commissioner Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman and Chairman. I have a couple of questions, and I know we don't control the media, no matter what Facebook is telling everyone, but I don't see anything ever about the urgency of the situation we're in right now. I mean, I understand why the 7-Eleven people are like, yeah, whatever, because I don't know if we're in a blanket of bliss, or the media also isn't doing its job, or this doesn't sell papers or get clicks anymore. I really can't figure it out. But, you know, when I tell people we're at extreme rate of transmission, they look at me like I have completely lost my mind. And I monitor that risk-o-meter that we built, thanks to the tutelage of the district health officer, Mr. Dick, on how to read all the data. And I just don't feel anything, Mr. Solaro. And I hear and feel your frustration as a subject matter expert and a policy pusher for the region. So I would like to just push you. We don't need to have a discussion up here. Push you to push them to get this word out to people. And then one thing I have noticed as a person who needed to call around and try to get a test, and you're right, it's a disaster in terms of the time waiting, is when you call, they don't even say it's a free test. And I think that is, well, you're not looking for tests right now, so never mind. When you need people to come in to get tested, we need to change that message too. Even when I call my pharmacy, it says, yes, we do have the vaccinations for COVID-19, but it doesn't say, and they're free. And if I was calling and didn't have insurance, I would be like, yeah, I probably don't qualify and I don't have the cash. So that's something, if we get into that jam again, which inevitably it feels like we will. And then my final question, Mr. Solaro, that I really would like you to respond to is, how do I get a hold of hospitalization data? Is that proprietary? Because it doesn't seem to be updated in real time, which is the only time I want to live in with technology. And it also doesn't seem to be, if it does not do that, it's actually a terrible barometer that I use as my own thing I wanted to track when it came to how much stricter we want to get, because it doesn't seem I get the data. Am I doing it wrong, or is it a system flaw? Can you speak to that?
Sure, through the chairman to the commissioner. One follow-up question to that, is there specific data that you're looking for, or is it just numbers of people in the hospital? Because the numbers of people in the hospital is really easy to get to. The number of people in a specific hospital for specific things is very difficult to get to. So if it's just the number of people in the hospital, that's a pretty easy one.
But it doesn't say condition or ICU or displacement, or there's 10 ventilators, but we actually have 18 people on them. It doesn't do anything like that, right? I can't dig in their data.
Right. It's very difficult to dig into the data unless you fully understand how to run those reports. But for the general data, the COVID-19 Washoe.com website has the dashboard that we link directly to the governor's criteria tab, which has quite a bit of actual hospitalization data. So you can filter it by county, you can filter it by region.
In real time, Dave?
It's about a day behind. So we're looking at data today from yesterday.
So I didn't dig enough. Okay, perfect. So
yeah, I can send that link. Sorry.
Perfect. No, perfect, Mr. Solaro. That would be great, because I've kind of been using that. Remember, I had said back in the day when we were going back and forth on how much control do we actually have for our local area plan, which turns out really the local area plan was already written for us. We just had to rewrite it. No offense to anybody, but that was my experience. Okay, that will help me, because then I was kind of like, well, then who do I listen to, right? If it's laggy or inaccurate. That was my target, but that makes more sense, and I'll definitely look forward to that link. And then I finally want to say, and I don't even think it's best practices, but we've never had a training on this, but Mr. Solaro, I have to tell you, Mr. Assistant County Manager, you have impressed the heck out of me for the region in terms of how much you know about every single thing I ever asked you. or anybody else ask you. And, you know, I'm seeing it here today and in the last couple meetings, but I had already heard that through the grapevine with your colleagues, your equals throughout the region. And I think it's important I put that on the record because I just love it when I see somebody just in their role that seems that you are just fulfilling so magnificently. And it gives me great comfort that I know I can text you or call you about anything about this and that you're on top of it and widely respected in the region, so I know people aren't reluctant to share data with you. So thank you so much. Thanks for keeping us safe. I, too, am frustrated. And what I've really learned, Mr. Solero, and you probably learned it way ahead of me, and that is the only person that you can count on to keep you safe is you. So that's how I make my decisions. And I don't mean that to be a cynic, and I'm a total humanist deep in my soul when I'm not wearing my armor, but I also find some freedom in that too. So I'm in control of my own safety, and guess what? I probably always was. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner John. All right, seeing nothing further from the commission, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Thank you, Mr. Solero. Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, we do have Cindy Martinez, followed by Janet Butcher.
All right. Welcome, Ms. Martinez.
Thank you. Thank you again for this record, Cindy Martinez. And congratulations, Mr. Solero. I did not realize that you had graduated from medical school since the last time I'd been here. That represents the hubris of unelected bureaucrats making oblique slams to we the people about public comments. We may be coming in here in civilian clothes and we may look like we're schlubs on the bus, but make no mistake that all of us are retired persons who are titans of our respective industries from which we came. And how dare anybody in government make such slams and intimate that our information is gleaned from social media? How dare you, sir? How dare you? Consistently, this county has failed to make any presentations about the ability of the citizenry to protect themselves by use of supplements, prevention protocols. The only place that information is coming from in these chambers has been from the citizens who have come forward and explained the research that we've done on valid medical and scientific. I don't rely on my information from social media. It's an echo chamber. I run things down to 1, 2, 3, possibly 4 points of corroboration because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I don't promulgate anything that's based in phony baloney stuff. But let me just say that Israel is the most vaccinated planet, or most vaccinated country on the planet, and it also has the most exponential growth in what COVID appears to be. So I'm not just a bozo off the bus. I can make a common sense analysis on there seems to be a cause and effect between these experimental use authorization injections. And Geert Vandenbosch, who used to work for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who by all measures is not an anti-vaxxer, warned about this. We have vaccinated into a condition where the virus, whatever it is with its spike protein, has mutated, much like flu viruses do. You know, so this county is remiss in not articulating prevention protocols. Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you talking about vitamin D? Why aren't you talking about ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine? And don't wait to go to the emergency room. And let's talk about nursing ratios that have been reduced because they've been fired. Staffing is down across the country, and that's what you're not hearing on mainstream media. That's resulting in the overrun of emergency rooms and ICUs. That's the information that's being censored. That's the truth that they're hiding from you. Look for it.
Janet Butcher.
Thank you.
Janet Butcher, identifying as Martha Washington. I can do that. If this is so bad, why
is there not biohazard disposal containers in every area or on every corner? Can I have the overhead, please? Eating into my time. This picture was taken the other day leaving a grocery store. Mask, thrown on the ground. Okay. How many infected illegals have been dropped into our community? Does that speak for the new outbreak now? Are treatment protocols that work being used now, finally? Probably not. N95 mask box clearly identifies that it does not stop a virus. So how does a cloth or paper mask stop it? The experimental injection is not yet a vaccine. Once it becomes so and people can sue because of reactions and side effects, then it can be deemed a vaccine. I have a daughter who has lived many years with a compromised immune system. She's now a transplant patient. And we learned long ago that we don't go around her if we're sick. We wash our hands, et cetera, et cetera. She researched and chose to partake in getting the injection. I didn't try to bribe her and tell her if she got it, I would disinherit her. That equivocates to if you don't get the vaccine, you get fired. You can't go on an airplane. You can't go into a venue. And I noticed again that Mr. Lucy and Alexis weren't looking. Thank you very much for not looking.
I have nobody else signed in.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no further public comment, close public comment, bring it back to the board. And we will move on to, and close this item if there are no discussions from any of the commissioners. Commissioner Hill, do I have you sign in?
Mr. Chairman, I think it would be helpful if we gave some direction for this strike force, as Mr. Salerno called it, or the ICM, to give us some options on that local plan, since we're not technically following it right now, just for clarity in the community, and to give us a little bit of their feedback on what they'd like to see for revisions or more authority for their group. That I think that would really help. I'm hearing from the community that they don't know where we're at and what we're doing, and I think that this would be a good step for them to understand what Washoe County is doing for this emergency that we're in right now.
Okay. Mr. Salerno, I think you got that direction, and we'll bring that back to us. Okay.
Do we need a formal motion?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
So with that being said, and seeing no further public comment, I will close public comment and close this item. We're going to move on to item 22. This is our final public comment for the day. Mr. Manager.
Public comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items, with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
All right. Madam Clerk, will you please call public comment?
Cindy Martinez.
Welcome, Ms. Martinez.
Thank you, Commission, Mr. Manager, Mr. District Attorney, Madam Clerk, staff, Mr. Solero, with whom I disagree vehemently. You know, I don't want to come here every Tuesday. I retired last year, you know that. I want to go have fun. You know, but the stake of the fate of our state, the fate of the country, and the fate of my freedom and the people ensuing generations is at stake. There's clearly a bifurcation in this country about the views of what the role of government is. I think that I can't remember which one of our elected representatives or founding fathers said, but the government that governs least governs best. Today's day 550 of the, quote, state of health emergency. on March 12th, between March 12th and March 17th, I believe, was announced a program of 2 weeks to flatten the curve. And of course, we've seen several different iterations of that. And I would offer to the county manager's, assistant county manager's office and information to take back to his constituency is that clearly we're headed toward eternal control and communism. If you think for a minute that we're going to stand for imposition and accepting what Biden has promised, that the President of the United States stood at a podium and threatened the American people last Thursday. Does anybody in this chamber understand the President of the United States threatened we the people? That's never happened in my lifetime. And from a position of not leaving a man behind, which is why I offered resources during my public comment, that there's vast, enormous sources of information on the internet, and even local doctors who offer information and medications and prevention protocols. You don't have to die from COVID-19. I have various friends right now who are in different stages of exposure and quarantine, infection and treatment, having come out of the hospital. One of my friend's husband went to the hospital, went to the ER, and he was excoriated by the doctor. Not treated, not asked how he could help him, excoriated for choosing to exercise personal choice over his medical health freedom. Where is that in the Hippocratic Oath? Where does that have any place in a free society? So why would I know I'm not going to the VA if I end up contracting this virus. They'll kill me. Consider prevention protocols, please.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez.
I have nobody else signed in.
All right, seeing no further public comment, we'll close public comment. Mr. Manager, we are on to item 23. Do you have anything final for this afternoon?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
All right, commissioners, do you have anything final? You know, as a point of reference, I want to offer this up at the end of our meeting today because we've had the discussion pretty diligently about COVID and the response and what the federal government and the state government and what we are doing here at the local government and how those are very different on every different level. It is very challenging many times for individuals to understand why decisions are made or how they are made or how they arrived. But for some reference, for those of you who wish to identify as an individual outside of yourself, George Washington himself, you know, on February 5th of 1777, issued a letter to John Hancock ordering that he inoculate all of the recruits and soldiers within the Army, 40,000 individuals, from smallpox. So Martha Washington herself was inoculated, and so was George Washington, our first president. And so presidents have ordered and have done this before. Now, whether you believe or support that ideology, that is your own choice as a U.S. citizen to do and believe as you so choose. But there is data out there. There are facts that support different things. So you can choose to read, but our job is to do exactly that, provide the data for individuals. And we will continue to provide data for individuals. You can choose to believe it, take it, utilize it however you may see fit. But our staff has continuously tried to provide you with as up-to-date, forward-thinking data as available to us. And so those are my comments for the end of the day. It's frustrating. I understand that. Nobody wants to be wearing this mask, especially me. But it is what we have to do to continue to move forward with the process and continue to benefit this community as a whole, because there are 500,000 individuals that live and work through this community day in and day out. And it's our responsibility to continue to provide them the core foundational services so that they can operate their businesses safely, and we work strongly as that. So with that, seeing no other comments from our commissioners, I will close and adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.